Well, hi, everybody. I guess the thing to say is Happy New Year because it is January 1st, the first day of 2024. I'm going to be talking about what's up next. I'm going to be talking about not only here on the podcast, but maybe some predictions and some suggestions for the next 12 months. So grab a cold drink, sit down, get comfortable, come on in, let's talk about this. Well, yes, indeed. Welcome in. It is the first day of 2024, and I'm pleased you're here. Thank you for coming in, spending some time with me. We're looking at the year ahead. So with that, let's talk about, first of all, what it is we do. We talk about prepping, and I have seen a stunning growth in a good way of the number of people getting actively involved, being self-sufficient, and being able to care for themselves. And that's what prepping is all about. It started out with a backpack and 3 days of food. Now, to be considered a prepper, be considered, I guess, prepared, you should be able, you and those in your immediate circle. For me, it's my wife and I, and my son, if he happens to be here. He lives in Portland, but we're good for 4 people for 30 days. That's food, water, medicine, defensive capability, all the things you need to be on your own, because you are your own first responder until help arrives. We saw in the talent fire that was not immediate, that is something there is only so much help to go around, and you may not be one of those people next to the fire station, or you may not be on the ambulance route, or the road could be broken, the bridge is down. For whatever reason, you need to be prepared. And some people get kind of angry about that. And, well, we pay taxes. Yeah, good for you. So do I. The point being, you and your immediate family unit need to be self-sufficient. I have never been comfortable with the idea somebody else is going to take care of me. And we're seeing that more and more. In fact, when I was researching for the class, I do a class every September at Ollie, which is at SOU, and it was both live and online, and the idea was to talk about prepping for the first-timer with an emphasis towards my people, the senior citizens. I'm a baby boomer, and statistically, about 50% of us have at least got our big toe into the prepping pool, and there's quite a few of us, like myself, who are actively going out and annoying people and stocking up on toilet paper and things like that for not only the big boom, the big earthquake, the big fire, but those interruptions, those problems, those real-life situations. The road goes out, a heavy rain. Gee, what's the possibility of that? A mudslide, some weird weather causes a disruption in the food chain, or a power failure, or things like that. We're going actually back to what we used to be, family. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my friends, my family, I look at you that way. We used to be self-sufficient in the 1800s. Time changed, living changed, food insecurity, and I've said this before, and I just had a lovely lunch. And the idea that you don't have to worry about what you're going to eat, that there was a store, that there was a facility, a butcher shop, a bakery, a Taco Bell. The idea of not having to worry about where your food is coming from didn't really happen until around 1900. Now, let's preface that. Let's look at the other side. There has always been and will always be food insecurity due to economic conditions. There are some people, even today, there are some kids and families that don't have enough food. Now, we can go down that road in a future episode, but it is a reality. That is an economic condition. That is not because there is no place to go. So being ready for a problem, boomers are doing pretty good. I'm finding Gen Z people, that's up to about 40% of the population. Thank you, Gen Z. Good job. And millennials, this blew me away. 39% report being involved in prepping at some level. Now, these are not fully sustainable, 30-day builds that they're ready to go and be out on their own, but they're working on it. And I urge supporting working on that. Oh my God, that's a great thing to do. I went to a website and talking about the coming 12 months. They said, yes, there's the best flashlight or the best pocket knife or the best tent, but there's other things we have to do to be prepared, like being prepared medically, being prepared financially. And financing or financial independence or preparation is really getting to be a trick these days. Things are getting expensiver, more and more expensive every month, so that things like food are a commodity. That means you buy it now, and it's going to be worth more in 6 months. You have to look at things like the fact that credit cards can really build up during the holidays. One of the first tips they give for 2024, pay down your credit cards. One individual even recommended, he said he and his wife got together and looked around the property and said, you know what? That three-wheeler, we haven't used it in a long time. It's just sitting there gathering dust. They sold it, and they paid off a bill. Now, maybe that's not something you can do. Maybe you don't have other toys that you have stocked up. I've been through both my yard and through my gun case and looking at things that, if I get rid of this and I get rid of that, I can get one of these. If I need something new, instead of putting it on the credit card, reduce your credit card by selling off things you don't need and either pay that debt down, which is your first and your best idea, or buy that new thing you just absolutely can't live without by getting rid of some of the stuff you have. That second vehicle, that third vehicle. I know somebody who has 4 vehicles. There's 2 people. I don't know what they're doing, but okay. They're kind of now thinking it might be a good idea. They're looking at how they're spending their money. They're looking at where they're spending their money. And these are, of course, personal decisions. One thing you might want to consider with shortages becoming a thing, and look around your supermarket. It's looking different in there. And this is because of supply chain interruptions. This is because of weather changes. Things are going to be harder and harder to find. So the possibility of a shortage now is greater than it used to be. So if you're thinking of down the road, maybe we should, I think this month, January, is an ideal time to get started with your plan, or modifying, if you're active like I am, like we are at our house, modifying the way you're planning and what you're stocking up for, how you're doing that, how are you financing it, how are you warehousing it, things like that. This is a time, January is an ideal month. We were talking today that January is just not only the longest month of the year, but it is the longest month of the year. In fact, there's absolutely nothing going on. We've had holidays, picnics, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, Bob's birthday. A lot of people born in December, I've noticed, but that's a whole other thing. Lots going on. Nothing going on in January that I'm aware of. So what a good time to look at your debt. What can you pay down? How can you pay it down? Pay a small one off first and keep applying towards the bigger one. That's what I've learned over my years. First, I don't have a lot of credit card debt. I don't like to do it. But at the end of the year, you've got, property insurance, tax time, Christmas, oh God, somebody broke their arm. You've got a lot of things you need to be aware of. So financing for the coming 2024, for the next 12 months, getting debt down, making the most of the income you have, and not having to spread yourself so thin. I hate to say it because it's hard for me, but there are toys I want, and I haven't bought them, and I'm not gonna, because my income isn't there. I've retired. I can't spend like I used to. That was hard to learn, but it's very important. So fiscal preparation is as important as supply preparation. Maybe spend that disposable income you've been spending on something else, on training. Because if you've got a box full of medical supplies and aren't sure how to use them, they aren't useful. Another thing we've talked about is in food, and this person brought up a great point about gardening. And I think he was talking to me when he said it. He said, do you suck at gardening? Are you not really very good at it? Do you get a bunch of wilted kind of... Ugh. Enough said on that topic. Yes, I'm terrible at gardening. My wife is much better. And we, as I have suggested before, for 3 years now have taken a stab at gardening. Our old location where we used to live, we did container gardening because it was an apartment and they didn't want you digging up the lawn. We now have our own place and we have property that we can plant things on, and we did it last year, and I'm very pleased. We did very, very well. We tried a single crop, we tried tomatoes, and by golly, it worked. There is a learning curve on everything, on gardening, on baking your own stuff. Things can happen that you are not used to. There's a lot of good stuff on YouTube there, but nothing beats experience. So what if you're like me and you're not the world's best gardener? Well, we kind of discovered this last year. We got halfway through a project and found out we were short of tomatoes. Oh my goodness. We had overestimated our crop and we had overestimated our commitment. There are farms in this valley. Did you know that? Absolutely. There are places, well, if you can't get a community garden and be a part of that and do your own gardening, then look at buying from some of the farm stands, some of the regenerative farmers out there. There are a number of places. Person grew tomatoes, for example, and they had Roma tomatoes, and they had these kind of tomatoes, and they had that kind of tomatoes, and they were in a situation they kind of would like to sell those off pretty quick because that's something that's going to be perishable. Look for farm gardens, places you can buy from farmers, from community gardens, different things you can do. And this is bringing me into another idea for this coming year, and that's buy locally. Support local business. Another thing, in addition to farm gardening, there are people in the area. Did you know you could buy buffalo farm to table here in Oregon? Yeah, they're up there in the northeastern end of the state, beyond Pendleton, and there's an actual buffalo ranch out there, and they will sell you parts of a bison, just as you can buy locally. I've looked up a couple of locations here in the area where you can buy beef. Now, buying a beef is an investment of both time and money, and you have to have storage area. Think of those banana boxes, the boxes bananas come in. Figure 3 or 4 of those rolling in, depending on how much you buy. And you have to have the money, which you've been saving because you've been paying off your credit cards. And you have to have the freezer space. We have actually considered looking at some plans here where we get rid of this, we get rid of that, and we get a good freezer to fill up with meat and chicken and all those things you like to have when, in fact, you get hungry. So you don't have to run to your favorite grocery store every time. In fact, buying it at the farm, I have fond memories as a boy back in the 50s. And we'd go out to the farm and pick up hunks of meat or pick up baskets of Back there, I was in the Illinois Central area, baskets of corn and baskets of tomatoes and things like that. You know, one thing, interesting point, and this is kind of a side note, arugula. I call BS on arugula because in my entire lifetime, no one has ever said, Bill, would you go out in the garden and pick me a batch of arugula? Sorry, we didn't grow it. We didn't have it. I don't know where it came from. I'm just kind of curious. Back on topic. So now is a good time in January while you're getting organized for the next 12 months, because the next 12 months are going to come at you like a freight train, people. I promise you that. There is a lot going on, a lot of changes happening. So look at long-term planning for things like beef or buffalo, if you will, different chickens, poultry, produce, things like that. Right here, type into your Google search machine there, sustainable farming. And you'll find right here in our area, there are people more than happy to sign you up and take a deposit and put a quarter of beef aside for you, and they trim it. Wow, that's worth every penny of the cost. Or if you want chickens, or if you want rabbits. There are a lot of things you can do to bring your costs down. Maybe you and your neighbors, or you and a couple of your friends from church want to get together and make a buy and share it out. Now you're saving money, and now that money you're spending is going in the freezer, and it's going in a local pocket for where you're buying it, and you're helping your community in a lot of good ways. I'm interested in seeing mainstream publications pick up the information on prepping. Atlantic Magazine, which I always thought of somewhat as a literary magazine. They would talk about different authors and different plays and things like that. And I always liked their writing. Wow, that's really good. But lately, they've been talking a lot about prepping. With several suggestions that this is something you might want to look in. So as a listener, you're already ahead of the curve. So we've talked about stocking up and planning different food sources. We've talked about financial independence in that you're paying off what you owe. You're repurposing the money you're getting for a more long-term, direct, local investment and something you need versus something you want. That's a basic econ class that I'll be happy to go through in a couple months if anybody really cares. And let's look, I mentioned things are coming at us pretty fast. If you haven't become aware of it, and I don't know anybody who hasn't, but we got to say it because it's due diligence. Looking at the shortages on the shelves, we're seeing different look to our supermarket. Go to your supermarket, look around, and see what's different. Also, we're going to expect, if we're smart, more closures down the road. We're going to expect people to say, whoops, and this could be from supply chain interruptions. This could be from bad weather, causing a flood, causing a landslide. There's a lot of big disruptions happening. Japan just had an earthquake, and if I'm checking correctly, it's like 7.1. That's a big earthquake, and that's a lot of disruptions. An earthquake here, an earthquake in any of our areas is going to cause a problem, and it's going to take longer to put things back together. Also, there is an increasing grumbling I'm hearing from a number of different quarters, both left and right, that they're looking at emergency executive action. It's already been suggested on several fronts, and that to me shows they've lost the reins and things are heading downhill really, really fast. I am going to keep my ears to the ground. I am going to reach out, and I'm going to try and be as apolitical as possible. Because as I've said before, both sides, there's plenty. If you want to be mad at somebody, there's plenty of blame on both sides of the aisle. Yeah, we'll go there in another couple of weeks. I'm looking at blind belief. People are blindly listening to dog whistles on both sides of the aisle. The problem of the week is No, the problem of the week is not what you're screaming about. That's trying to divert us from real problems. And the idea that the weather is not really changing, it's just a bad season, is ridiculous. I'm finding more and more people who are kind of shaking their head going, yeah, it's 60 in January and we've got snow up to our eyeballs in some parts of the country. The whole California coast being battered. I used to live in the Ventura, California area, and one of my old neighborhoods is underwater now. It's gone. So San Francisco, that area, getting bashed by heavy winds, heavy rains. Things are going to happen very quickly. We're not going to have a lot of time. Tornado Alley has changed. If you don't know what that is the part of the United States where we see tornadoes frequently happen and move from south to north in a semi-predictable area, except they've moved over several hundred miles and have decided it's kind of fun to go east and west and not to be just 15 minutes maximum, but to spend a good hour tearing up trailer parks and downtown areas. So things are changing, and that's what I mean. Next year's going to be coming fast. Looking at the things ahead, take your blinders off. The idea that it's going to go back to the way it was, that it's going to be better, or that somebody's going to step up and make it better for you is a fallacy. I believe in us. I believe in you. I believe in my family. I believe in a close circle of friends. And I don't take anything for granted anymore. Just because somebody says something, I want to know for sure. Trust and verify. Who was that? Was that Reagan? I think that was Reagan who said that. Trust and verify. So use this time. You've got 30 days. You have a gift of 30 days free time. Get your taxes in order. While you're looking at taxes, look at what you're spending. Have that serious discussion. We have modified things we're going to do. We're not taking the huge, giant vacations. It took us 3 years to get to Nolens. We took our big trip last year to Nolens, and it was wonderful. But we've put down 3 or 4 other big trips or more significant trips because we're putting money in things like a good generator or looking at home security or making sure our vehicles are being serviced properly. Get that work done that you've been putting off. We've got parts ordered. We've got things coming in. These are suggestions for you. This is not just saying Bill Bateman is so cool. Oh, look what he's doing. I'm not doing that. I'm saying these are things I have found effective, and I share them with you. And as always, don't forget there's that email at the bottom. If you've got a really good idea for consolidating debt, if you've got a really good idea for getting ahead or for preparing foods or getting that the pantry in a little better shape, I'm happy to hear it, and I'm happy to share, and I'm happy to give you credit for it. Okay, next week, we're going to be talking almost exclusively about the classes we give. I met a person, I was out shopping. Hey, yeah, the podcast guy, right. I said, you always talk about the classes. Why should I take classes from you? Who are you guys? You know, we know who we are, and we know that I believe, it is my personal feeling, that we're the best in Southern Oregon, based on the amount of experience we have, the amount of time we've been in business, and the way we do business. But we're going to talk to you and give you some examples of our work. We've got customer testimonials. We've got a lot of things and a lot of reasons you can get training anywhere. We never forget that. We are all about getting you involved as a lifestyle in a positive way, knowing what safety is, knowing what good shooting techniques are, being able to effectively means safely use your firearm. So we'll be talking about that in depth. You can go to the website. It's now fairly self-explanatory. There'll be another concealed carry class coming up. on the second Saturday of this month. We also have our non-ballistic self-defense happening. The first one of those is going to be in January. And there are a lot of things that we are doing in the community, like my free. That's the other thing. Somebody says, how come you don't charge for your podcast? Well, this is a free thing. This is just a give back to you. This is something we give to you in the community. I do a 90-minute presentation on this very subject, prepping. Preparing for seniors, preparing for young people, preparing for families. Prepping is important. You are in charge of your own destiny that way. So if you are interested, go to the website. There's a place you can sign up. I have a limited amount of these. I have a limited amount of time. And no, I will not come to your political campaign rally for anybody's party and be a part of that. I'm happy to give for the community, senior centers, family groups, churches, things like that. That's what we're all about. So we've got the prepping seminars, we've got the classes, and next week we're going to talk about who we are and why we think you should probably get learned up from us. Okay, big one this week. These could get longer because I'm getting more energized. Maybe it's because I got more sleep. Well, in either case, thank you for coming by today. I look forward to seeing you coming by for a class. Come by out at the range and do your homework. Professor Prepper is giving you some homework. Let's look at your financial picture. Let's look at how long could you last realistically. Water and power, lights, boom. Oh, gone right now. Click. What the hell? How long would you be good for? Think about that. Come see us next week. Keep your head on a swivel. Be safe. Take care. The preceding presentation was a Retired Guy production.